Hello everyone, my name is Marian Guevara. A huge hello and a huge thank you to anyone who is just clicking on this video or checking out the channel. Whether you are a new subscriber or if you're an old subscriber, thank you very much. Your viewership is always greatly appreciated. Today I'll be taking you guys on a little tour of my physical TBR. I'll be showing you all the books that I have here on my TBR. And as I am showing you these books, I'll also be doing a bit of organizing. And what I mean by this is that I'm going to attempt to make what I would call a priority TBR. So books that are in my immediate priority that I'm going to try to get to first. And if you saw the episode where I featured in Dear Dr. Fantasy, where Dr. Philip Chase invited me over to talk about books and such, I talk a bit about how I am very much a mood reader. And I'm not one to make plans. I just allow the mood to kind of take me where it wants to go. And it's worked out for me, for sure. However, I do want to challenge myself and start crafting, a more concrete, solid TBR. As I organize, there are going to be 3 categories that the books can fall under in. So we have back burner. So these are books that I don't see myself reading in the immediate future. So they're placed on the back burner. We have the priority TBR. So these are books that at this moment, I really do want to get to quicker. And then there is, maybes. I don't know whether it's going to go on the priority TBR or the back burner. Once I've kind of sorted everything out, I'll sift through the maybes and see where they land. There's no particular order in which I'm showing you them. I'm just randomly getting them from the stacks. So the first one I have here is Ovid's Metamorphosis. This one I have already tabbed because I have read bits and pieces of this poem before I even bought this copy. I'm going to put this on the back burner for now because I'm just not in the mood for some Latin poetry at the moment. Then we have The Dark Audilon and Other Fantasies by Clark Ashton Smith. Clark Ashton Smith was a great friend of H.P. Lovecraft's. He was part of his inner circle, and he's a prominent name within sort of classic dark fantasy and horror. So I do want to get to him. However, not right now. His prose style is, I would say, similar-ish to Lovecraft in the sense that it does lean towards the verbose, which I don't mind at all, but I just got to be in the right mood for. Speaking of Lovecraft, we have these 2 books, Night Voices and Night Journeys and Inverted Kingdoms, or Kingdom. This is volumes 1 and 2 of Lair of the Hidden Gods. So these are Cthulhu mythos stories from Japan. So you have Japanese authors who were inspired by the Cthulhu mythos and wrote their own stories, wrote their own tales. I find that really fascinating. I love that concept. So I'm going to include Night Voices and Night Journeys on the priority TBR. As for Inverted Kingdom, this will go on the back burner, but it will be dependent on whether or not I like Night Voices and Night Journeys. Next, we have The Wickwire Watch, by Jacqueline Hagan. Evie from Shiva's Only Evie so kindly gifted this to me. And this is the first book in a Gaslamp fantasy series called The Riverfall Chronicles. And last time I checked, there were 5 books in the series. I don't know if it's completed or if Hagen is going to be releasing more books. As of right now, it's looking to be quite long. So I'm just going to put this on the back burner because longer series just don't really have the time for them right now. Next, we have The Curious Case of H.P. Lovecraft. This is a biography of H.P. Lovecraft. I have a general understanding of Lovecraft's backstory, but I do want to delve more into the details, but not right now. Moving on to the next stack, we have Mordu by Alex Faby. So this is the first book within a fantasy trilogy, and I picked this one up solely on the fact that, similar to Observatory Mansions by Edward Carey, this was likened to Mervyn Peake's Gormenghast trilogy, which I love. This one, I would say I'm putting this on the maybe pile for now. Next, we have Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. This is part of that 12-book challenge I have for 2025, where I had some Instagram friends recommend me books to read. This is the first book within another fantasy trilogy. I should put this on the priority TBR because I do have that challenge, but I'm going to include this in the maybe pile. Next, we have Lost Gods by Brahm. This one, I picked this up because the premise reminded me a bit of Senlin Ascends. Here you have a man who got out of prison and was betrayed, and he's now in purgatory, and he's trying to claw his way out to be reunited with his pregnant girlfriend. I don't know. I just found that similar a bit to Tom, who has to claw his way up the Tower of Babel through the ringdoms to be reunited with his wife. So this one, I'll put on the maybe pile. Next, we have Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. This one is just going to go on the back burner. It's a hefty classic, and I'm just going to need the proper headspace for it. Next is The Way of Adan by Philip Chase. This is the first book in the Adan trilogy. I'm definitely going to be getting to this within the year, but as of right now, in terms of priority, not so much, but I will be definitely getting to this one by the end of the year. Next, we have this first volume of the Elric Saga by Michael Moorcock. I don't know how many books there are in the Elric Saga. I know that volumes 1 and 2 encompass 8 books. And, I know they're pretty short since 4 books fit into this. I'm just going to put it on the back burner because, once again, it is a long series. Next, we have Dune by Frank Herbert. Now, this one was so graciously gifted to me by Brian from BellTube. Huge shout out to Brian. I actually tried to read this a few years back. However, I just wasn't in the right headspace for it at the time. But I do want to get to Dune. However, while I do want to get to it, I don't want to get to it right now. So, back burner. Okay, next we have a trilogy, and this is the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. The first book being Assassin's Apprentice. Oh my god, I am tempted to put Assassin's Apprentice on the priority TBR. Here's the thing, whenever I put a first book of a series or a trilogy on the priority TBR, there is a chance that the rest of the series might follow, because who knows, I might love the first book and immediately want to read the the subsequent installments. So I'm going to put this on the maybe pile. Next is another mass market paperback fantasy, and that is The Lions of Arasan by GGK, Guy Gavriel Kay. This is fantasy, but historical fiction, heavily inspired by, I think, Reconquista Spain. I'm actually going to put this on the party TBR because I do want to get to some Guy Gavriel Kay, and it's a standalone. Next we have Bird Box by Josh Mallerman. I do want to get more into modern horror. I mainly just read classic horror, and it is short. I will get to, well, I'll put this on the maybe pile. Next is The Weird Tales of Dorothy K. Haynes. This is part of the British Library Tales of the Weird collection, which I am a huge fan of. However, I picked this one up mainly because I heard that Mervyn Peake was a fan of Dorothy K. Haynes. He wrote to her, he did illustrations of her work, as shown here. I'm going to include this one in the priority TBR because I love reading from the British Library Tales of the Weird. Okay, this next one I'm actually going to include in the priority TBR as well. That is The Amulet of Samarkand by Jonathan Stroud. This is the first book within the Bartimaeus trilogy, which is a middle grade series that I think was sort of like all the rage back when I was a kid. So I actually read this back in elementary or middle school, and then I actually reread it back in high school, and I enjoyed it both times. However, I never continued on, and I really did want to. Last in this pile, we have To Marry an English Lord. This one I did feature in my haul. Not in the mood for it right now, so back burner. Now we move on to the final stack. So here we have a Penguin Modern Classic, and that is An Apprenticeship or the Book of Pleasures by Clarice Lispector. This is about Laurie, who yearns to love and be loved. However, she simultaneously has a fear of connecting with another human being. And this is a book that kind of grapples with, the unknowability of the other person within the relationship, but then delves into what it means to love and be loved. So a lot of philosophical musings, I'm sure. It is short, and I am curious in reading from her, so I'll put this on the maybe. We have The Law and the Lady by Wilkie Collins. So I'm going to put this on the back burner, mainly because I want to save my Wilkie Collins. If I read this now, I'm going to have no more Wilkie Collins to read. So I'm just going to start accumulating more. Next is Lord of the World by Robert Hugh Benson. This is a work of early dystopian fiction, one that predates 1984, Brave New World, We by Yevgeny Zamyatin, written by actually a Catholic priest, Robert Hugh Benson. Am I really going to put this in the maybe? Am I really that indecisive? Yeah, I'm going to put it in the maybe pile. Oh, God, it's embarrassing. Summers at Castle Auburn by Sharon Shin. This is fantasy, but I would say this is very much a coming-of-age type of fantasy where we're following so much of Fitz from the Farseer trilogy. This young woman, our protagonist, is a bastard child. And this is very much about her growing up and looking back and seeing how her childhood at this castle wasn't as idyllic as she thought. And typical of me, I'm going to put it on the maybe pile. This is ridiculous. God. Okay, this one, Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, is another book from my 12 books to read challenge from 2025. This is about an older woman, Tova Sullivan, who is just recently widowed. She's haunted by the sudden disappearance of her 18-year-old son, and she ends up getting a job as a cleaner at this aquarium during the night shift, and she ends up befriending this hyper-intelligent octopus named Marcellus. I'm actually going to put this on my priority TBR. I have been reading quite a bit of fantasy, and I do want to read, I just want to add more general fiction or lit fiction into my reading diet. Okay, Stoner by John Williams, Backburner. I have a sinking feeling I'm going to read this and find it relatable, and I don't need an existential crisis at the moment. Okay, we have Shadow and Claw by Gene Wolfe. These are the first two books within the Book of the New Sun tetralogy. I foolishly tried to read this last year towards the end of 2024. I took it with me on my trip to Florida, and then I got sick on my way back. It ruined my my desire to read, to continue on. So I'm going to put this on the back burner. I feel like this is a series that I'm going to have to devote. I'm going to probably devote some time to it. Well, next one is, actually it's the last one here. The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. This is the first book within the Dandelion Dynasty. And Backburner. This is a thick, thick book. And the books just get thicker and thicker with each new installment. So those are all the books. I just now have to sift through the maybe pile and see which one I'm going to put onto the priority TBR. Okay, so I just sifted through the maybe pile and I've picked out 3 books that I'm going to add to my priority TBR. So the first one is Summers at Castle Auburn by Sharon Shin. This has been on my want to read this for years, and it's a standalone. Okay, praise be to the standalone. I am including also the Clarice Lispector book, An Apprenticeship or the Book of Pleasures. This one is very thin, and I read a few little pages, and yeah, I do want to read through this one. And lastly, I'm going to include Assassin's Apprentice. Hopefully I end up loving this. Derry, you is a huge fan of Assassin's Apprentice. This one's for you. So here we have my priority TBR that I have crafted together in this video. We have An Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, The Lions of Alversan by Guy Yarrow Kay, The Weird Tales of Dorothy K. Haynes, An Apprenticeship or the Book of Pleasures by Clarice Lispector, The Amulet of Samarkand by Jonathan Stroud, Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. We have Night Voices, Night Journeys by several authors, and then Summers at Castle Auburn by Sharon Shin. So, yep, those are the books on this TBR. Now, is it a possibility that after taking all this time, all this effort into curating this particular TBR, I read something else? Absolutely. Absolutely. It is a possibility. But you know what? A for effort and all that. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this little tour of my physical TBR. If you spotted a book in this video that you think I really ought to bump up on my TBR, that you really think that, I might enjoy, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Always game to having a conversation with you guys down there. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!